When it comes to innovation and shaping the future, you don't need all the answers, but you do need space to think differently. We're launching a special 6-part B.R.A.V.E. Human Leadership series in collaboration with our strategic partner, the Human Leadership Institute. In this series, we explore what it really takes to lead through change, a challenge more and more leaders are facing every day. At TomorrowZone, we help leaders shaping the future of business and technology to pause, reframe, and reimagine how they move forward so that they can lead with clarity, empathy, and purpose. Are you ready to think differently? Start your breakthrough at tomorrowzone.io. And now, on to the show. Welcome to the TomorrowZone Catalyst Podcast, where we explore the future of leadership, innovation, and transformation. I'm your host, Deborah Reuben, and in this special 6-episode series, we're diving deep into what it really takes to lead in this rapidly changing world. We're not just talking about leadership buzzwords, but we're talking about brave human leadership. This is a research-backed framework built on belonging, resilience, and authenticity, vulnerability, and empathy. These are those human-centered leadership skills that drive real impact and foster innovation and create those cultures where people and business can truly thrive. Joining me throughout the series is my friend Jen Croneberger, founder and chief inspiration officer of the Human Leadership Institute and a leading expert in relational leadership. Together, we're exploring the science, strategy, and stories behind brave leadership and why it's more essential now than ever. Today, we're going to talk about the A in brave, authenticity. Welcome back, Jen.
Good to be here, Deb. Thanks for having me.
Always. All right. Well, let's dive in. This is going to be fun. So what does authentic leadership really mean?
So authentic leadership is, it's not, let me tell you what it isn't first. It's not about trying to be who we think a leader should be. All right. Let me preface it with that. It's about being fully ourselves in how we show up, how we lead, how we connect. It's about leading from our values, what we call our non-negotiables, not from expectation. It's about speaking truth, even when it's hard. It's about dropping the armor and allowing people to see the real us, because people don't follow titles, they follow humans. Authenticity doesn't mean we have to be perfect, right? It means we're willing to own our imperfections, to admit when we don't have all the answers, to lead from a place of deep self-awareness. To me, I have seen that the strongest leaders aren't the ones who try to be everything. They're the ones who show up exactly as they are. That's the key.
Oh, man. Yes. So let's go deeper.
Okay.
Because I think this is really important. And I know so many folks who struggle with this.
Yeah.
Especially what you're talking about, like admitting when you don't know the answers. I come from a world, finance world, where actually everything is driven on having the right answers.
That's right.
Not having your answers questioned, which is what innovation is all about. So that explains a lot of the friction I've dealt with throughout my career. But, this is so important. What happens when leaders lose that authenticity, and how do leaders lose their authenticity, and what can be done to reclaim it if they have?
What we've seen over time is, I think, and I think this naturally happens for everyone at some point, somewhere along the way, many leaders, you might lose touch with your authenticity, and it happens almost quietly, almost without noticing. That's what I've seen as kind of a pattern, where it's not like a big grandiose thing, like, oh, you're not being authentic. It's these little things that happen. So here are a couple examples. We start leading from, like I said before, maybe who we think we should be instead of who we are. We are focused more, or we worry more about perception than purpose. We start to hide parts of ourselves because we think those things don't belong in a leadership role. We become so busy meeting expectations that we forget to check in with our own truth. So these things happen. They're quiet. They're somewhat unnoticeable in the beginning. And then we figure out that it's actually happening. And okay, so now how do I fix it? How do I reclaim this authentic self? Again, it goes back to the pause, right? We pause, we recognize it, and we ask this question. Am I leading from alignment, or am I leading from expectation? And I think, as we get curious about where we've been maybe wearing masks, so to speak, if you can visualize that, we can reconnect with our values, those things that when we honor them, make us feel fully alive. We're really connected to that. And we remind ourselves that real leadership isn't about performance. It's about presence. It's not about trying to be something. It's about being, period. And I think reconnecting to those pieces of ourselves isn't hard. We just have to be aware that we need to do it. I think that's the key there.
I am really curious about what you just said about presence over performance. I've actually seen that in action. I was working with a very senior executive at an enterprise level, and I remember seeing that in action, that like just that person's presence would fire up a team, and I could see that impact last for weeks. And it had nothing to do with what they said,
It did, right?
what they presented, or any performance. It was just their presence that would change everything for a team.
And if I can,
how do you get that?
Well, you can feel when someone's not being real, right? We all have that, like the little tentacles go up. We're like,
yeah,
being genuine right now, right? Like this feels a little forced. We all have that kind of detector, I think, that, because we can recognize when someone is being real. We say, if we're asked, think about someone who is completely genuine and authentic and real. Every single one of us right now could picture somebody. We know who that person is. And maybe there's a few that but someone always comes to mind. And I always say, don't worry about finding those people, worry about being those people, right?
Yeah.
So instead of picturing someone else, we should all be picturing ourselves, because that's in our control. We get to choose how we show up. And so I can show up as authentically and genuinely as I possibly can. And you're going to know that. You're going to feel that, right? And I'll tell you, I think, especially when I speak, one of my greatest compliments is that you're real, you're authentic, you're genuine. And I strive to be that, because I know that anything else is just a production. Anything else is not really who I am. And so giving of myself to make other people feel comfortable enough to do the same in my presence, that's a gift. And that, to me, is the strength of being an authentic leader.
So why is authenticity an advantage in business? I mean, this, I know you don't like the phrase touchy-feely things, but this kind of feels like one of those touchy-feely things.
It is. I think authenticity isn't just a personal value, it's a leadership superpower. And for all the reasons we were just talking about, right? When leaders are authentic, they create this culture of trust. People know when you're being real, like we talked about, right? We feel that, and the trust leads to deeper engagement, stronger collaboration, and teams that feel truly seen and valued. Authenticity also drives innovation. When people feel safe to bring their whole selves to work, they're going to share ideas more freely. They take more risks. That's been proven. They show up with creativity instead of fear. And let's be real, it's magnetic, right? Authenticity is magnetic. It attracts the right people, the right opportunities, and the kind of work that feels meaningful. Because when leaders are authentic, they give everyone around them that opportunity to show up that way too. And I mean, we've seen it, right? I'm sure that you've seen it in your own work. When someone drops the guard and kind of brings that wall down and says, "This is hard for me," it's like, excellent. You just got into that place. And the people around actually react to that. They respond to that differently than if the wall was up and everything's just kind of a charade. We can't build real things with fake leadership.
Oh, wow.
That just doesn't work, right? We can't do it. I mean, as simple as that, right? And so, yes, does it affect the bottom line? 100% of the time it does, because your people can't show up in order to do their jobs. I remember back in the day, it was really thought, that you had to leave your stuff at home, right? You come into the workplace, it's about work. You never bring your home self, your drama, your whatever's happening there. You don't bring it into the office. Here's the problem with that. What we're telling people is you can only really show up as like a percentage of you. I don't know, 50%, 60%, whatever. For some people, it's 70% of the stuff at home is who they are. And they're showing up with 30% of themselves because there's some big thing going on that is taking up their energy. But what we're asking for is people to give 100% at work. The math doesn't math. And I'm not a math person, but I know that doesn't work. We can't ask for 100% of nothing, right? And expect results. 100% of 30% is still 30%. So we have to recognize that a whole human is showing up. All of the stuff, good, bad, indifferent, whatever, it doesn't matter. It's real, it's authentic. And when we're treating someone as a whole human being, you're going to get a whole human being in response. That's the goal there, right? I mean, we don't want people showing up and giving us a percentage of their effort. That doesn't fly.
I can see why that's so important. I mean, first of all, it goes back to trust.
Yeah.
And knowing that you can be who you are and trust that your team is there and has your back. I know when I was going through some tough stuff a couple of years ago, I almost lost my mom, and it was just incredibly traumatic. And I just had to share with my team, exactly what was going on. And the amazing thing is the way that they all stepped up and things kept moving, even when I couldn't be there or wasn't able to totally be at my best.
That's right.
And, it's a beautiful thing that happens in people when you can show up with authenticity. They step up.
And people want to help.
Yeah.
Right? We're taking away the ability for someone to actually do something that makes them feel good too.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah.
Why not?
I mean, and I feel like because we were really real about what was happening, we came through that together as a team even stronger.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I know this is really important, but I think a big concern that leaders might have in all of this is how do you encourage this authenticity in teams, but still maintain professionalism? Because you may have things going on, but not everything is appropriate.
Sure. Yep.
For the workspace. And, it's not about like airing your dirty laundry or stirring up trouble. How do you balance and encourage this, but still remain professional in a work environment?
I think that there's this myth, and this has been a long-term myth, right? This isn't just from another century, but I think this is an ongoing myth that authenticity and professionalism can't coexist. And if you think about it, true professionalism isn't about putting up walls. It's about showing up with integrity, with respect, with self-awareness. So how do we create cultures where authenticity thrives? Well, number one, we have to model it. When leaders show up as themselves, it sets the tone for everyone else, again, to do the same, right? So we're setting the tone. We have to model it. We also have to make it safe. We're creating a culture where people can, share thoughts and ideas and even failures without fear of judgment. That's the idea. So when we're making it safe to be authentic and share a failure, then you're going to get more of that. Also, celebrating individuality, recognizing that people lead, they communicate, they contribute all in different ways. And that's actually a strength. We need that in order to have real innovation, and then being able to hold space for real conversations. I think, authenticity doesn't mean oversharing, but it does mean creating an environment where people actually feel seen and heard when we do share. I think often people kind of feel like they have to hide who they are sometimes. And I see this a lot, right? But what happens in that space is that they hold back. But when they feel free to actually bring their whole selves to the table, they rise. I saw this in a client interaction about a year ago. I had a client who was really started to embody this and would ask at the beginning of their weekly stand-up meetings with their teams how people were doing. And they gave them the space to check in. And then they would ask one person each week to share a fear that they had. And they would take turns each week, so it was someone new, right? They had 5 minutes max. And then they would move on to the business of the day. And they talked about personal fears that they may never have thought about or learned about each other in those meetings because no one talks about that stuff at work, right? And some leaders, again, like I talked about, feel like you got to leave your stuff outside. But when they started, it was kind of like this superficial stuff, right? It was pretty surface. It was pretty like, well, I have a fear of, just random stuff, right? It wasn't anything really deep. And you could feel there was a little discomfort in the beginning. It was like everyone's least favorite part at first. But about a month or so in, something really amazing happened. People started to kind of open up and let others kind of get to know them a little bit more. And truthfully, it became everyone's favorite part of the day. They would then move on to other topics like, all right, now we're going to do a whole cycle of wins. So then they did the beginning of every meeting. Okay, share a win. And they started to talk about a win and how it affected them. And, so now we're not just hearing about fears and negative things. We're also hearing about wins and positive things. Then they went on to like, what's your favorite quote and why? Right. So it was like, you got these 5-minute snippets to learn about each other, to really feel who they are. Whatever it was, it really kind of helped them see each other in a more human light. And that extra 10 minutes or whatever it took total for all of that, because, the thing that made them the strongest team in the company as far as outcomes and communication, talk about ROI, right? 10 minutes it took them. But if you use that time right, that's a huge win. So I watched that. I watched them practice this and put this into place. And all of a sudden, they were one of the top producing teams in the company.
That is so amazing because you think about the big myth, you have to get away to the Ritz-Carlton for 2 days, pay for travel, to have everybody in the same space to do team building.
Right.
But that's an event.
Exactly.
Investing 5 minutes a week.
This is an ongoing
to build your
process.
Team. Like that is
easy.
Powerful.
Yeah.
But it takes intention. And it
takes intention.
That's the problem.
But it doesn't cost you anything. And it literally grabbed 5 minutes, 10 minutes total. If you're asking how everybody is, do a check-in. And then, all right, whose day is it? What are we talking about today? And literally you take those 10 minutes, that team was rock solid by, a couple months in. I mean, they were going out to lunch together. They didn't ever do that before. They didn't really know each other. Now they're like, hey, what can I help you with today? I have your back on this. Let's do it together. And they started to collaborate in different ways. I mean, it was amazing to watch, all by taking 5 to 10 minutes at the beginning of every meeting. That's it. Wow. It's not so like inspired. A big extra thing.
I'm so inspired by this. Actually, I'm like in the background, I'm rethinking, oh, what can I do? Because so we started implementing some of this on your modeling and your lead, actually. And when we do our team meetings, Jenica leads the team through a quick exercise like that. And it has really made a difference. But I think what you just shared in that story, we could take it to a whole other level.
Absolutely. And it's fun. It becomes people, like I said, it became their favorite part of the meeting. It's like, yay, who are we hearing from today? Who do I get to learn about?
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That's really great. So let's bring it, I mean, we've been talking about teams, but let's bring it down to a personal level. What is a personal practice that could help leaders to really stay grounded in who they are so that they can show up with authenticity?
So I think one of the most powerful things that a leader can do is create stillness for themselves. And as we're talking about this kind of pause idea, this reset, this deep breath, this stillness, even if it's for just a few moments each day, right? We have to not just check in with our team, we've got to be able to check in with ourselves. So here's a simple practice. It's something that I do. So I'm happy to share this. Ask yourself 3 questions at the end of every day. Here they are. Number 1, did I lead from my values today? Okay. Now, in order to answer that question, guess what you have to know? What your values are, right? And we have a whole exercise on how to do that. So, did I lead from my values today? Number 2, where did I shrink or play small? That's an awareness. It's an intentional awareness to see, hey, did I shrink back off of that? Should I have pursued that more? Should I put myself out there maybe? What are those opportunities for me to do it differently next time? And then the third one is, what do I want to carry forward into today, into tomorrow? So what's the thing from today that worked really well? What's something that I really enjoyed? What is something that I really want to carry into tomorrow? Maybe it's something that I didn't really even get to do today, but it's something I really wanted to do. So I'm going to bring that forward into tomorrow. So again, did I lead from my values today? Where did I shrink or play small? And then what do I want to carry forward into tomorrow? Reflection actually keeps us anchored because it helps us to kind of come back to the real thing. What really happened today, right? Instead of like, oh gosh, I was busy. Well, what does that mean? You're busy doing what, right? And it could just be the mundane things of the job or the work or whatever. But this anchor kind of reminds us who we are. And think, we're in these moments where we're all running at the speed of light. So it doesn't just remind us who we are, it reminds us who we are when the world tries to pull us in 100 different directions. Mm-hmm. Think of authenticity as not a destination. It's not somewhere you're trying to get to. It's a daily practice, like we talked about. It's a commitment to checking in, to coming home to ourselves, and to leading from that place. That is powerful stuff. And when you can do that, and it doesn't, look, this isn't hard. This isn't rocket science. Mm-hmm. This is being intentional about the things and doing them in the order that we talk about, because it matters. It matters when you show up like this. People feel it.
Yeah. Well, and I'm just thinking about just how powerful it is to practice that reflection, because, you just think about the reality of our day to day. I mean, I know for myself and a lot of the leaders that I know, we're overly scheduled. We're scheduled back to back to back to back to back to back to back. And I was just reflecting on this morning. Like, if you really want to shape a more awesome future, you have to take that time to step away from day to day.
Absolutely.
And really connect with meaning and the meaning that you want to create in the world. And as I was listening to your end of day kind of check-in routine, I realized, oh my gosh, in those days that are just back to back to back meetings, you can feel like you're caught up in a whirlwind, and you get to the end of the day and you wonder, what is it that I actually achieved today? But this is a really fantastic way to actually bring meaning to that day, because we move. I know for myself, I move so fast that I actually miss and forget what we've accomplished. And so I know that one of my faults is I don't take time to celebrate enough because I'm constantly like, what's next? What's next? What's next? TomorrowZone, where are we going?
Is it tomorrow yet?
Yeah. Like, we want to make tomorrow happen. It's awesome. It's so exciting. But,
right.
There's actually a lot of really amazing things that happen and so many encounters throughout every day. Exactly. I love this practice.
Yeah.
And
I will add one thing to it. At the end of every day, I literally have a gratitude practice where I literally just say, if nothing else, thank you for blessing me with abundance. No matter who you're talking to, whatever, God, universe, mom, dad, that's who I talk to. Thank you for blessing me with abundance. And that's it. That's all I have to say. It's staying in gratitude every single day. That's authentically me. And I want to make sure that I close my day by saying thank you, because I am truly blessed. I don't have to choose to see it that way, but I do choose to see it that way. And every single one of us can choose to see it that way. That's the choice.
I really believe in that. I believe that's part of choosing to make awesome happen.
Yeah, sure.
I do my gratitude practice in the morning, and I've been doing it for years. And actually, I remember, when we were going through all the crazy of the COVID shutdowns and everything, that's what got me through. Like, even, if I could only write down 3 things, and it was things like, I woke up today.
Exactly. Yeah, that's right.
The coffee was awesome. Like, it was sometimes stretching, but still, choosing to get into a place of gratitude that, like, no matter what's going on, I can find something
absolutely
to be grateful for. And it's so interesting that we're talking about this, because when you and I first connected this morning, the first thing we were talking about is, oh my gosh, isn't it such a lovely thing that we get to wake up every morning and do something that we love to do and positively impact people along the way.
Totally. 100%.
So grateful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I'm so grateful for this conversation. And as we wrap it up, I just wonder, when we think about leaders who might be struggling with self-doubt or shifting into this more authentic mode, what is one shift that they can make today to embrace their authenticity?
So I think a great place to start is stop asking, am I enough? And start asking, am I aligned? Let that sit for a second. Because leadership isn't about being enough, it's about being you. And the more you trust that, the more powerful your leadership becomes. So today, I'm going to invite you personally, you listening, to take one small step toward authenticity. Maybe it's speaking up when you normally stay quiet. Maybe it's saying no to something that doesn't align with your goals or your mission or even your values. Maybe it's simply reminding yourself that who you are is already enough. Because when you lead from that place of authenticity, no matter what it is, the place of truth and alignment, you don't just lead, you inspire. And isn't that the goal? Isn't that the goal every single day?
That is the goal. That's my prayer every day.
That's the goal.
I want to be an inspiration.
Absolutely.
And you have definitely been an inspiration, Jen.
You too.
Thank you so much for sharing your insights and your wisdom on brave human leadership. For our listeners, what resonated for you? What are you taking away from this that you're going to apply in your life and your daily experience? Let's keep the conversation going. You can connect with us on LinkedIn, visit TomorrowZone.io, and you can explore Jen's work at the Human Leadership Institute. If you enjoyed this episode, we encourage you to subscribe, share it with a colleague who might need to hear this. And until next time, stay curious and choose to make awesome happen.